And I got. Right, sorry for the delay, it's 6/19, October 29th, the budget. So we have the draft preliminary budget, and Beth, if you could just go through and talk about the highlights of it, just some of the changes that have been made from what we had talked about before and where we're at, maybe you can just go through that real quickly.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna start with the expenditures first, because that has the most changes. And then we'll go back to the revenues. It'll make a little bit more sense that way. So if you want to start, it actually says 1 of 8, but at the top it will say general fund expenses. So starting down there, most of the lines that you will see that have adjustments are the top line in a section, which is personal services, which is salaries, and then the corresponding FICA / Med City share. The reason for that is the very first time I went through the budget and built it, I took basically 2023 actuals and applied a percentage to get us to 25. I did not go line by line through all the contracts at that point. I hadn't had time to do that. So that was to get an initial budget. And then we've gone back and I've sat with Chrissy and we have literally gone through each department, take a look at their payroll, take a look at their associated contracts and gotten the correct numbers into those personal service lines.
That seems like a big job.
It was, and that's why it took us a little bit of time to get it correct. So we started out with the wild swag and then we corrected ourselves going forward. So anything that I'm gonna go through, I will talk about the ones that aren't either a personal service and a FICA, because that's why those lines have changed. So going down, you'll see in the section that's the 1325 section, it says munis account / payroll, and that went up significantly. The reason for that is we are looking at different options for tax software. Our AS400 system is no longer supportable. It has not been for some while. We were looking at a couple of different options. Munis is the most expensive option for that, also the most capable. We're looking at another option as well, but I want to budget for the bigger expense if that's what we end up going with, because I don't want us to be short on that line when we get to that point. So that assumes that we do go with the munis for the software upgrade. We're not 100% sure on that yet. We're also looking at ATC tax software, but it's not as capable and we would still have an air gap between the two systems. So it wouldn't directly feed into our ledger, which is not as helpful as we'd like it to be.
So just like before, Munis is still the most compatible option for what we've got going on.
Yes, so that's what we use for our general ledger right now. That's what we use for our utility billing. So we are looking at using that potentially for our taxes.
Right.
Yep.
Smart move, like it.
All right, then we do more personal service and FICA in the next department. You'll see a lot of that as we go down through various departments. Okay. Not really anything. I'm switching page 3, I think is where we see our next, yeah, 3 of 8. You'll see up in that first section at 3010. There was an increase in the line that's named contractual functional operational equipment. That has to do with the signage that Mike brought up when he was speaking for DPW at the last meeting. He had gone back through and looked at that to figure out where we needed to be, and he and I worked on that. So we did push that up another $5,000 based on what he feels is needed. If you go down a little bit into the police section, the 3120. I highlighted there, you can see I had just put the wrong, I flip-flopped the line. So it's fixed where it's the 0 and then the 159,750 was that small increase that the police chief had mentioned that we had failed to budget quite what they needed in that line for their operating equipment based on the cost of the outfits that they're seeing. Going down to their contractual professional rental line, that's the 49,713. That was, again, it was just a couple $100 that when he went back and pulled the actual contracts for things, we were just a tad short there. So we bumped that up to match his numbers. And then going down, you can see again where that FICA Med was readjusted to what it should be based on the salary lines. On the next page, which is page 4 of 8. On the top line, in the fire department, again, we've got an adjustment on the salaries and then again, adjustment on the FICA Med going down through their section. Going down to animal control, you see again, adjustment on salary, adjustment on FICA med. The next page is page 5 of 8. Again, with building inspection, adjustment on the salary line. And you know, the FICA med did not highlight on that, my apologies, that one should also be highlighted. The contractual professional services, pushing that up to 19,000. Let me pull my notes on that. That was another one where we had shorted that a little bit more than we should have. It had to do with one of their software contracts that I was not aware of and did not include. So that was one that fire chief spoke to, and I made that adjustment based on my notes during his conversation. Down to DPW administration. We actually decreased some lines and increased others. So this one gets a little crazy. You can see that the tools and equipment went down considerably. The professional services went up, as it did the salary line, which I should have highlighted as well. I apologize. I missed a couple highlights in there, FICA med. Most of what we were doing in there is we're trying to realign in DPW where he's seeing the expenditures so that we're getting the right amount in the right line instead of kind of going hodgepodge through that department. And please stop me if there's anything you have a question on as we're going through. I will, I'm happy to pause. Again, the DPW maintenance, again, it has the adjustments to the personal services and the FICA med. DPW garage, again, personal services, FICA med, and again, in the total rec administration, again, with the personal services and the FICA med. Follow page 7 of 8. Update to the FICA med at the top on that one. Again, for playground and rec center, updating personal services and FICA med on that one. Beach and pool, again, dating the FICA med on that one, just to make sure it was more accurate. And then in youth programming, again, personal services and FICA med with the updates. And the last page 8 of 8. The FICA med share goes down to 0 for the city there because we've accounted for it across each of the departments. So that's that adjustment. The employee benefits, I actually sat with Chrissy and we went through the entire SAP. Assuming that everybody kept the same elections that they currently have. We don't know if people are going to change, but it's a fairly good assumption, and we actually assigned a more accurate number to that medical benefits line. So that we pulled it down significantly. So that in total, all those changes actually brought us down for our general fund expenses, just under 30 million, I'm pretty happy to say. So we're at 29,703,830. So if we take that number and then go back to our revenues to balance out the 3 adjustments that were made there. I actually had gone back, our special assessment, which is the second yellow one on the very first. Bless you. Thank you. Was tracking a little bit better. I was rechecking all of our revenue lines. So that one I did bump up slightly. I took down considerably our refunds of prior year's expenditures. What we're putting in there is as we're getting grant money back for money that's already gone out, we're tracking it there. We don't want to do that continuously. That's not a best practice. So we're easing our way out of that, but it allows us to see where the money's coming and going until we've got that separate capital budget built to track that. And then on the page 2 of 3, I had inadvertently during formatting, cut off that top line of police fees that we get in about $2,500. So that's back in there. So that balances out our revenues and our expenses.
I'm looking at, everything's more than proposed.
A little bit, yep.
But until we,
Other than you get to the medical, and that's where Chrissy and I can't say enough about the amount of time and work Chrissy has done helping me make sure that we're really getting right on with the salaries and the benefits and really we spent a lot of time going through person by person and making sure we've got the right numbers.
that's a nerve-wracking thing when you get that back tight and make sure that something isn't missed,
That is the truth,
okay?
yes. And that's why we keep checking our math again and again, so I'll be checking it yet again this week. As we get ready to put this on for next Tuesday,
It's really impressive.
so.
Good news.
That's good. No, thank you. It'll be better next year. It's a good start. We'll start with what we can do. Are there any questions about what we've worked through here?
Questions on the positions or anything, discuss that at all, and good on that.
Yeah.
It all made sense to me the first time around, so at least I thought it did.
But yeah, so gatekeepers for those four, and then we could consolidate to two.
Mhm.
Are we missing anybody in DPW? Do we have any unfilled positions in DPW?
Yeah.
So right now, we have two. Four. That are getting compensated more money per hour. Based on them taking the roles and responsibilities of the deputy superintendent. It seems to be working really well, and we'll look at a long-term solution towards that, where Mike is at, where he's going and what he has,
And overall, that's saving us money over there, right?
and his savings.
Yeah.
We did budget for a deputy just in case it does not work.
So he's trying to figure that out, figure out where his empty spots are and needs are, but those guys are stepping up.
I think
They
those-
still different needs and different parts, and the department is. But a lot of work is getting done, and a lot of good things have happened.
Do they still have a
building?
secretary?
Robin is over there temporarily, so how we get these positions, which the union was, rightfully concerned, and we want to make sure that we're not giving that, so. Through attrition, which is what I was trying to explain to him was. Shannon had, the DPW person had moved to the college, so they went to work at the college, so that position became empty. Rather than fill that, I didn't want to leave Mike with a void.
Right.
To try to get some of that covered over, and then also to train Robin so that she can receive calls from DPW and understand them. Because part of the plan would be those calls would be routed to DPW or routed to mayor's office. And she would answer the phone as city, and then she would be able to take on the DPW call, because a lot of them they call both places, and they weren't getting an answer there, they call my office, now we can streamline all that. She
Mhm.
knows if they're missing a trash tow or the road needs done, she knows how to do work orders. So she has been training for that. She can do their entries or their payables to help do that. She can cover some of those responsibilities, and then. The idea would be youth bureau, they do have people coming in and out, but that person could work remotely for doing purchasing for us, because it's all electronic. We're virtually work from home to make that happen, so that makes sense. And then the actual procurement person calling and getting contract with copiers, so that each department isn't doing their own copier bidding and pricing and chasing out contracts, which is what's been the past. All goes in one centralized service and say, first, why do we need a copy? Second, does everybody need a printer on their desk? Third, what should that be? What do we need? How many copies do we do? Then who's monitoring that? Who's paying attention to that? And that's what we're missing. Nobody's being able to do that. And in the end, some of the, department heads, I think they're nervous about it a little bit, but in the end is to make it easier for them to focus on their expertise instead of worried about that day stuff.
Mhm.
Because let's face it, most of our department heads come up through the ranks and file. And nobody teaches them ever how to do the desk part of their job necessarily. And so if we could focus on that ourselves and be able to handle that, that's the.
Okay.
So it makes all the sense in the world, and pretty much done everywhere that way. And they would specialize in those. And once you start getting those negotiating skills, they would be able to negotiate for a copier, for car leases, where, we get everybody doing their own thing. And I find we're paying 6 different prices on oil changes. Just a simple thing on a car. Now we're doing oil changes at DPW. For the departments, and we got our own inspections, so. Again, to centralize all that, so when somebody's gonna coordinate, all right, I bought brakes at the fire department, that goes to them, it goes brakes to the. For wastewater, DPW, keep track of it, and make sure it all happens and move those costs around instead of department heads calling the other department heads and then they explain it to the gatekeepers and they're getting it wrong sometimes, and we're getting things lost in the shuffle. It makes 100% sense from where I sit, and I know. Beth is coming late, but she sees some of the pitfalls that we're having in doing that, and it's just kind of unheard of to have that kind of lack of continuity.
Yeah.
makes sense.
And it's just been messy. It's just been haphazard and lack of leadership. Doing whatever they want to do.
And you can't do that's live, but. So, yeah,
Yeah.
but, yeah, so that's what that's, about. So I
It's
think.
much more professional,
It'll be a good, it'll be a
much
better
more
way to handle it.
professional.
And then they give the best, so the tools to be right outside our door to be able to handle it. That's that.
Well, this was a quick one.
It was, so appreciate it. Thanks for all the background work and thanks for doing that.
Yeah, thank you for your department, for all the work that went into this. This is,
You have to.
a lot.
You're gonna go home with a lot of brownies.
All right, thank you, and thank you for that too.
Yeah,
Motion.
they were good, by the
You
way.
wanna take some home?
Yeah.
I'll take a couple of them, Andrew, he'll eat them.
Yeah.